The dirty secret about why exhausted women don't want to have sex. Hello, I am Erin, your favorite sex therapist. If you are new to my world, I am the creator of the Desire to Fire signature program, where I help women who are struggling with low libido to remove the sneaky blocks that are inhibiting this, increase interest and arousal, and more deeply connect in their relationships and have some fun in their sex lives, because that's really important. And today I am so excited. I am joined by the sleep expert, Kasryn, and we are here to talk about all things sleep and sex and what they have to do with each other and how to have better experiences in the bedroom all around. So, Kasryn, welcome.
Yeah, I'm so excited too. I was so interested because there's so much overlap between the sex drive and sleep drive, and we were just jamming. So I just really wanted to join you and record this. My name's Kasryn. I use she, her pronouns, and I help exhausted adults break the cycle of sleepless nights using research-backed approaches, starting with a thorough assessment to really understand your sleep, and then coming up with a targeted and tailored treatment plan that's backed by science. So I'm excited to be here today and talk about sleep and sex. Sex comes up so much in my work as well. So
And sleep
I'm
comes
excited.
up so much in mine. And for those listening, we're probably going to nerd out today because I love talking about the research. I think it's really helpful because I think, just to dive in, I think something that a lot of my clients struggle with, at least, Catherine, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, is that they feel like they're the only ones struggling, that this is just a me problem. And I think the research and the stats go a long way in normalizing how prevalent these issues are.
Yeah, extremely prevalent. It depends on who you're measuring and what test you use, but it hovers around 10% of the population if we're talking about clinical issues, and then much, much more if we're talking about sleep issues in general. And there's so much misinformation too about sleep and about sex too, I'm sure, that people get a little bit discouraged and they think there's something broken with them when
Yeah.
there's treatable issues. Yeah.
And that's one of the main things I hear from my clients. I feel like I am broken. I feel like there's something wrong with me. And it breaks my heart because at the end of the day, like who taught us how to maintain sex in a long-term relationship? Who taught us how to have good sleep patterns even, right? Like maybe as babies, but when we get older, like these are not really the conversations we're having. And honestly, in some ways it feels like we swing to the opposite side that like if you are exhausted, it's this badge of honor. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that because I feel like that's very much a normalized thing that like I only slept 5 hours last night and I'm like, that sucks. But tell me your thoughts when you hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. It's definitely part of the culture, and it's starting to be called out now that exhaustion or being busy as a badge of honor it doesn't necessarily lead to improvements in your career. Sleeping better improves our memory, it improves our cognitive function, reaction time, muscle repair. It improves so many areas of our life that trying to show off how little we sleep is a little bit counterintuitive to actually achieving whatever goal you're trying to show off. Ultimately, sleep can help you get there.
Yes. And I think it's such a backwards way that we go about it. I mean, so we had a storm in this area recently, and I was without power for like 4 days, and I didn't sleep well for 3 nights, which in the grand scheme of things is not a lot. I was a completely different person. I was so irritable. I was so like short-tempered. I like had no motivation. And I was like, how do people live their lives like this all the time?
Yeah, there's a recent study looking at teens. So I work a lot with people who have had sleep difficulties all the way into childhood, and it becomes part of the identity for so much of their life. This is how I've slept. I am an irritable person. I'm have insomnia and I'm depressed because that is who I am, versus this is something we can address. And I think there's a lot of similarities with sex too. Like people kind of, it's so important, but people dismiss it and don't prioritize it or think that there's nothing that can be done. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yes, and I think this like identity piece is really a big one because I feel like I hear that all the time, right? Like women will come to me and they'll say, "Well, I just have low desire," right? Like I've been struggling with this for 10 years and it's this identity that gets like tied to the being when in the reality it's not usually low desire at all. It's that nobody has taught you how this works and nobody's taught you how to stimulate it. But I think this tied to who we are as people makes it so much harder to change, right? Like if I've just been like this for the last 10 years of my life, then why would I think there's a way to change it? And that's one of the misunderstandings, right? Like, I talk a lot about
Mhm.
expectations, which are our expectations about sex, and how a lot of, and probably sleep too, a lot of what we view as quote unquote normal is not actually normal. It's not actually good for us. It's not actually based in the facts, right? And we know
Yeah.
in research that almost 50% of women in long-term relationships, quote unquote, just deal with low desire. And that's just what's reported.
Mm.
I mean, we know it's way higher. And I'm like, so half of us are just out here dealing with this, tying this to our identity, accepting this as what it is supposed to be, when in the reality, it's just all based in false information. And I'll probably get on my soapbox about that today because I could rant about that a lot, but this false information does so much more harm than good for us, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I hear a really hopeful message of, you don't have to live like this. You can be deeply rested and sexually satisfied and really just take up space in the world in a way and like yeah, have pleasure and rest. I mean, I think we're taught and trained to not be selfless, give. Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's something that a lot of my women struggle with, this idea of taking up space, because they're the people pleasers. We're the caregivers, right? Like they're taking care of everybody else before themselves. And I know that it's so cliche, but very much it makes me think about how you can't pour from an empty cup. And how, like, especially for women, there's this backwards view that we have where we feel like we have to give to everybody else first. And then when there's time, if there's time at the end of the day, then I will invest into myself.
Mm.
First off, there's never time at the end of the day. We can find shit to fill our time every day, right? Like that perfect time is never going to come. But I think this idea of taking up space and really prioritizing your own well-being is something that a lot of women struggle with. Rest or sex, right? Because it's like feeling good. Well, I don't know. Like if it makes me think about stress, right? Like stress is so normalized that if you're not stressed and exhausted, it's like, well, why not? Like, are you not working as hard as the rest of us? When it's like, why can't we be rested? Why can't we have pleasure? Like, where did we lose sight of this so much that it's become the norm to not feel these things?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you do to help people, help women?
Oh, so many things. I think the first place that I start with women, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts because I'm guessing that this very much impacts sleep also, is, and this is going to sound really backwards, right? Is I start with the fact that it's not usually a sex issue. So people come to me and they're like, Erinn, what do you mean? Like it's causing tension in my relationship and I'm stressed out about it and I'm never in the mood. Like, how is it not a sex issue? And what happens is nobody probably ever taught you this, but arousal is a two-step process. So what happens when somebody is experiencing lower desire or are in these periods where there's like differential desire causing issues in the relationship is they hyper focus in on the sex itself. How do I have more sex? How do I have better sex? How do I get in the mood faster? How do I have more orgasms? But that's only 50% of the equation, right? I call it like turning on the ons. The other 50% of the equation that has to come first is turning off the offs. And one of the major contributors for this, especially with exhausted women, is nervous system overactivation. They get stuck in fight or flight because there's a lot of stress in today's world in general. But once sex starts causing stress, your brain doesn't kick on your sex drive, it kicks on your fight or flight. So we have to remove those barriers first, or the things like toys and lingerie and candles. It's why they don't work because they're not fixing the issue. We have to turn off the things that are inhibiting the sex drive in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And this is what really clicked for me because there's so much in common with the sleep drive. So people try a lot of things to increase the sleep drive. They try medications, they try supplements, they try to just wear themselves out. They'll try tart cherry juice and mattresses, and none of it really works. And the analogy I've been using lately is if you're trying to park a car and you have your foot on the gas, you can put your foot on the brake all you want, but it's going to be really difficult to park that car. And parking the car is going to sleep. The foot on the brake is everything you're trying to do to increase the sleep drive.
Oh, it looks like we lost connection. Hold on one second. Okay, we're back.
Okay, there's a technical issue, which
Technical
is
issue.
fun. So you
Real
know
life, people,
it's
real life.
real. It's not AI.
Exactly.
But yeah, if you're trying to park a car, the foot is on the gas. That's the stress and the trying to sleep and putting a lot of effort into it. You could put all you want on the brakes. You can try to suppress, increase that sleep drive, take medication, try to make the sleep happen, but it's going to be really difficult to park a car with your foot on the gas and on the brake at the same time. So what I do with that is an exposure-based approach because we all know that trying to stop stress doesn't work very well. I'm determined I'm going to be less stressed. That tends to not
Hmm.
be very effective. So with insomnia and difficulty sleeping, when someone's really trying to sleep, often it's almost a fear of sleeplessness. If I don't sleep well, tomorrow's going to be difficult. If I don't sleep well, XYZ. So, what we do is take an exposure based approach along with a collection of other tools and strategies, a suite of tools, to get your natural circadian rhythm back on track to help your natural sleep mechanism heal. But the sleep drive is there the whole time. It hasn't left you. It's not the issue. It's the other things. It's the trying really hard. So we can work together to get that back on track because it never left you. And I think that's something I was hearing from what you were saying, that it's not the sex drive, it's other things.
And I'm resonating so much with what you're talking about because I'm thinking about those nights where I'm lying in bed and I'm just like, go to sleep, go to sleep. And I'm watching the clock and I'm like, tomorrow's going to be miserable. And I'm trying to and then I just lay there for hours. Like, it just becomes this like negative
Mhm.
feedback loop where I'm just even more agitated and even more. So this is making perfect sense. And I love
Yeah,
that you use the gas and brake analogy because I use the same one when it comes to sex drive, but in the opposite way. Because when people come to me, it's like they're laying on the gas, right? They're trying to get this little car
mm,
moving, but they don't realize that they're standing on the brakes and the e-brake is on and there are cinder blocks in front of all the tires. So it's like you can lay on that gas all you want.
mm,
Your car ain't moving unless you take the pressure off the brakes. So it speaks to the fact
yeah,
that a lot of systems in our body, I think, are made of activators and deactivators and how there's a balance.
yeah. hmm Absolutely. Right. Yeah, and sleep is a disengagement. It's interesting, although they have so many similarities. There's an engagement, a doing, and then sleep is a letting go, a disengagement, which is really challenging when we're go, go, go all day. There's so many expectations to let go and release into sleep, to get those deep, slow brain waves requires a just a radical acceptance of whatever's happening and a letting go, which can be really difficult, especially when people are really driven. And that serves you well during the day, but at night it can keep you awake.
Yes. And it's something that
Yeah.
is so pervasive now in our society, right? Like the hustle culture, but also like so many of us live and die by our to-do list because there's comfort in that. And I am one of those people.
Mhm.
I love my to-do list because I love checking things off and I love like the organization of it. But then at night when there's nothing to distract you, this idea of letting go,
Yeah.
it sounds like it would no wonder it's so tough for so many of us because
Yeah,
with our
absolutely.
own thoughts, and especially if we've been avoiding some of those thoughts during the day, and now they're all coming up, and now I'm stressed out about all these things. And that disengagement, I think,
Absolutely.
is really a powerful way to look at it. Like you have to let go.
Absolutely. And one of the things that people like about the treatment is we extend your day. So a lot of times people when you're having difficulty sleeping, you're giving sleep a lot of the 24-hour cycle. You're giving it a huge chunk of time and spending a lot of time trying to sleep, wishing you were asleep, tossing and turning, or even you're asleep but you're in that light non-restorative sleep.
Yeah.
We're going to give you all that back during the day and consolidate the sleep. Tends to be more refreshing when it's all consolidated. That means you get a lot more time in the evening. And people will say, wow, I have no hobbies. I actually have time now to explore what do
Hmm.
I like to do? What do I want to do to wind down? Because typically in the treatment, people get a couple hours back in their day that they're not spending trying to do something.
God, can you
Yeah.
imagine a couple hours of my day? That'd be great. Like
Yeah.
To say we could do so many more things, but that's me with my to-do list, right? Like being productive. But we could just find things to fill our time, like enjoyable things. And I'm curious for you, what this is making me think about is one of the reasons that I talk a lot about sleep with my clients is because fatigue is the number one reason that women say no to sex. And there's a lot of feelings around that of, well, women make excuses and there's the gatekeeper, there's this perception, but fatigue literally suppresses sex hormones in women. And women biologically are a lot more sensitive to that than men. So it can be really difficult in heterosexual relationships, especially when men are like, well, I'm exhausted and I'm still down to rally. And she's like, I
Mm.
literally cannot. So there are differences in how these affect us. But when I try to help somebody with their sex drive and they're not even sleeping well, it's like, well, we're fighting this uphill battle now, right? Like, if you don't even feel good, how do we introduce pleasure? How do we explore this? How do we bring this into your relationship? Because the techniques aren't landing because they're not stimulating your body in a certain way. And I'm curious to get your thoughts because something that I will come up against sometimes is kind of like the dismissal. It's like the sleep diet exercise. Like, okay, I know that those are important for me, but like, it is what it is. I don't have more hours in my day. Like, what do you say to people, or how do you handle that when they kind of like poo-poo how important sleep is, which is one of our most basic needs? But how do you handle that when it comes up?
Mm. Uh, it's interesting. This does come up sometimes when I'm talking to people, but a lot of times when they work with me, they're like, I really want to sleep. Please
That's
help
true. They're
me.
coming to you because they're like, please help me.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But when I do talks and things, I do have people who say that. I did a presentation for the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, and there's a lot of residents, doctors, and professors who are burning the midnight oil. It's part
Yeah.
of the culture. Sleep when you're dead, there's no time for it. And so, what I do say there is whatever goal you have, let's say you're a student and your goal is to get good grades. Just Google how does sleep improve grades. There's strong research that sleeping well improves your test score no matter how much you study. So it tends to be a little self-defeating when you're not sleeping, but you're working so hard on this goal. By letting go a little bit, it's scary, right? For people who want to
So
achieve and
scary.
do, but letting go a little bit allows all that hard work you put in studying to consolidate in your memory. Olympic athletes, they may think, I need to train more, I need to do more, but muscle repair is so important to achieving your goal. So what I would say to someone who is kind of poo-pooing it is think about what your number one goal is, what you're working for, and Google how does sleep influence that? And most likely you'll see research that says it's going to help you achieve your goal.
Yes, and I love this reframe because I think some people, it's like the sleep when I'm dead, right? It's a waste of time. I can't be productive. I'm not doing anything. It's like the waste of time versus the benefits that we get when we are sleeping well, that we are literally healthier and more energized, and like our cravings are different, right? And like our hormones are different. Like, I think that is a huge shift of like, well, what are you getting when you do this though? Because I think something that probably you experience also with your clients is this idea of, well, it's just supposed to happen and if it doesn't, like I don't have any control over it, right? Like sleep just happens and it is what it is. I get that all the time with sex. It's just supposed to happen. It's supposed to be easy and spontaneous. And I'm like, what, no, nothing in our lives like just happens, and nothing in our lives are not influenced by outside stimuli. So I think it's really fascinating that this can feel, both of these, sex and sleep, can feel really out of control for people. But at the same time, like
Hmm.
there are a lot of things that you can do, and it's not supposed to just happen. Sometimes you do need to take steps to help it show up for you in a better way if how it's showing up is not serving you.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it comes back to something you said earlier about how we're not taught about this stuff. And a lot of times people don't know because it's just part of the culture to like not not have the rest and enjoyment. It's just supposed to happen. If it doesn't, it's not for you. Um, but yeah, there are things we can do. We can't directly control sleep. So that's where people get into trouble sometimes is they think I'm going to force myself to go to sleep. But there's a lot we can do to indirectly support sleep and promote sleep. And not only sleeping, but quality sleep that's going to help you reach your goals, including having a great sex life and improving your marriage or your relationship. Because like you said earlier, it is a really important factor. Being well rested is important for helping the sex drive. So, there's a lot of things you can do, even if it's not happening somewhat without trying. There may be a little bit of action that you could take.
Yes. Well, and I think you're making such a good point, right? That trying to work on your sex life when your sleep is a mess, you're not sleeping. It's like trying to run before you can walk. And it's making
Mhm.
me think about how I just lost my train of thought. It will come back. So it made me think about something. But something else that I was wondering for you, because I think I hear this a lot too with my clients when something is causing stress, is the role of outside substances, right? Having a drink, smoking a little weed to slow things down, to calm down and like
Mm.
shift awareness. And I have found that that is a band-aid solution and not super helpful for my clients because it also affects blood flow and it affects sleep and all that kind of stuff. But I'm curious, especially for the sleep piece, how you see that showing up when people are like, I just can't, I'm just going to have a glass of wine because I can't fall asleep at night.
Yeah, that's a really common thing, and it may increase drowsiness. You may be able to fall asleep, but the quality of the sleep, will it be restorative? Probably not, depending on how much you've had and how far into the night. And also, it tends to lead to nighttime awakenings. A lot of the substances that people take for sleep, they become tricky and sticky because it seems like they work. So you have a couple drinks, you're feeling drowsy, you go to bed, you're tired. It tends to lead to nighttime awakenings as your body's processing that. So the thought process is, oh, it helped me fall asleep, but it also caused those nighttime awakenings. Cannabis is another example, or weed. People smoke that, but when you do it consistently, one of the side effects of not taking it or when you stop is insomnia. So people think, well, now I have to take those gummies
Yes.
or I can't sleep. But really, it's the withdrawal from taking the gummies. So that's where it gets tricky. And it doesn't necessarily, even if it knocks you out, it doesn't mean that you're getting restful, restorative sleep.
Yes. And I'm so glad you said that because I am curious and I have no idea if this is based in fact, but I heard one time or read, I don't remember where I saw it, but that a lot of sleep medications are similar. They make you drowsy, you fall asleep, but it's not super high quality sleep. That's why people will feel drowsy and groggy the next day because it's just like the onset of sleep, it's not quality sleep. Is that true?
Yeah, medications are supposed to be short term. The American College of Physicians recommends cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia as a first line treatment for difficulty sleeping. But there's very few providers, which is a major issue in my field we need to work on, that there's not enough access. So a lot of times doctors start with medication, but the medication is supposed to be a short term thing. Just knock you out while you're dealing with something and then it should resolve on its own. A lot of times it doesn't resolve on its own, and people take it for a really long time.
Mhm.
There's new classes of medications. They're trying to find something that does actually promote sleep. But yeah, a lot of them just knock you out. And it's not, people don't necessarily feel better during the day, which I
Yes.
think for me is more important than just being unconscious for a certain amount of time.
Right. Like I want to feel good and like be able to concentrate and like live my life day to day, not just be unconscious
Yeah.
for 8 hours. But and this is making me think too, and I do not mean to hate on medications. I think there's a lot of really great medications that when used well can be really helpful. But I will get questions all the time from women who see these supplements that are supposed to be libido enhancing, like the maca root and the ashwagandha. And now there's like a little pink pill or something like that that are supposed to help with libido. And those are band-aid solutions for women who are struggling with sex because, again, when we think about this arousal process, they're only focusing on the 50% that's like trying to turn on the ons. So people are taking them, they're like, they're not working. And now I'm feeling even more like there's something wrong with me. And now the belief is even more ingrained. And now we're having to rewire that even more. But the pill doesn't work because it doesn't get to the root of the issue, right? Kind of like what you were saying with like you fall asleep, but like the issue is the quality of sleep. And same for sex drive, right? Like they don't work to stimulate your sex drive because they're targeting the wrong side. But I think normalizing that is important because I think people feel like it's them or they feel like an exception to the rule when they go see their doctor and they try this thing and they're like, well, it doesn't work because it's not addressing the real problem. And it makes me think about how yes, these things are important for health, right? If we think about sleep, if we think about like intimate connection and long-term relationships and like connection, they're important for our health. Or well, but it makes me think about quality of life. Like this is something that I keep coming back to in this conversation. That, like prioritizing pleasure, prioritizing rest, very hard when we are getting external pressure to not prioritize those things, or like have been taught not to prioritize these things. But we're talking about quality of life here. Like I want to live a good life where I feel good day to day and I can show up in my work and my life and my relationships in a way that feels good to me. And I think both of these are a huge piece of that puzzle.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm really glad that you're highlighting that. I think it's so important, this idea of, well, I'm broken or there's something wrong with me, that can kind of spill out into other areas of life. And in that kind of thinking, there's a lot of reasons for that, right? Like there's not enough information out there about getting to the root issue, the actual problem. When I walk down the aisles of a grocery store, there's supplements advertised as if this will fix you, this will help it, or this will you know, fix your sex drive, fix your sleep drive. And so you're getting that message that this is supposed to do it, but it didn't work. And there's no now what. And I think that's really important. I'm glad you're highlighting that. And the kind of the purpose of this today is now what? There are things we can do to get to the actual root of the problem. And another example I use is dental hygiene is like sleep hygiene. A lot of times people are trying sleep hygiene. They're going hard, really into doing every sleep hygiene item. But if you have a deeper issue and you're doing all the dental hygiene, you're brushing and flossing and brushing and flossing, it's not going to get down to the root. It doesn't mean that you're too far gone. It just means you need something that's going to actually address the real problem. And I wonder if that's true for sex too.
Yes, and I love this analogy because when I think about, because I'm literally thinking about dental work, right? And like when you have dental issues, they're the worst and they're super painful. And the longer you leave them, the worse they get. And I think that's something that, and especially since I work with women, it's something that I think a lot of it's a trap they fall into of the whole, well, it'll get better on its own. I'll wait it out. Like things aren't that bad yet, right? And that's how we as humans handle problems, right? Like we don't intervene until they are stressful enough, unfortunately. But the longer we wait with this stuff, the more ingrained those beliefs get, like you're talking about. And now we need a whole root canal instead of just shifting toothpaste, right? Or like addressing the gum disease or whatever it is. Like now it is so deep. And that work does get more painful and it does get harder, especially for me working around sex because it does involve another person. Now it's a whole relationship dynamic. So this like now what I think is such an important piece of the conversation because the reality is that these things don't just resolve themselves. And there's a lot that we can do, but the longer you wait, the harder it gets. And that's why like one of the things that I'm always preaching to people is I'm like, don't wait. There's a lot that you can do now, and that's going to look a lot different than if you wait a year, if you wait 5 years, if you come back to me because you're talking about divorce, and now we're having the conversation. That work is going to look very different. But also, it's not just about the work that you need to do to make any sort of change. It's about the fact that you deserve to feel good. You deserve to feel energized day to day. You deserve to feel pleasure and excitement and connection in your relationship. And I think that is something that is hard for kind of like the what am I losing versus the benefits that we were talking about a second ago. Like there are so many things we get to reap the benefits and rewards of when we invest in this stuff in a different way.
I just I felt that in my heart. Like as a woman, I just get this message everywhere, like give and you love to give, and of course you're gonna do everything for everyone. But like I think it's so rare for someone to say you deserve pleasure and excitement and rest and enjoyment. So yes, that is my message too. Like you deserve pleasure and rest and joy and all the good things that life has to offer. You're not too broken. We can help get you on track.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be as hard as it is now. It's usually just because nobody taught us this stuff. Like we just need the
Mhm.
direction. Because the more we try without the results, the more we think, well, maybe it is just me. And then we don't ask anybody for help
I
because now we feel like we're a lost cause. And that's not good either, right? Like we don't have to tolerate this stuff. Like we deserve more and we can have more. So I'm always on my soapbox reaching that because I think that's, especially for women, I think that's something that's really hard for us.
really important soapbox. Yeah.
I will die on that soapbox.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah, it's
But
so
Catherine,
important because we're counteracting so many negative cultural messages. Yeah.
exactly. And I think that's a piece of why it's hard too, right? It's like what we were taught in our families, it's what we see in society, it's what we've learned through our experiences. There's quite a few pieces of the puzzle. But also, I think the beauty of
Yeah.
it is that you don't have to tackle all of it at once. You can start with one piece of the puzzle and it has ripple effects. And I think that's something too.
Yeah.
People say, like, I feel like I have to redo my whole relationship. I have to like redo my whole schedule if I'm not. And I'm like, no, you start with one piece and there are ripple effects. So I think that can help people feel more in control with this also. You don't have to redo.
Yeah, I just had a conversation today about the positive ripple effects of sleeping well and how that has had not only on sleeping well and on the improvements, but being able to take up space in the world. And I've seen too how addressing pleasure and enjoying life can have positive ripple effects in other areas too. So yeah, it has a positive spiral.
Positive, and it's all connected at the end of the day, right? Like we like to think this one thing is affecting us in this one little vacuum. No, none of it exists in a vacuum. It's all related. So
Absolutely.
Catherine, I love this. This was so amazing and so fun. I would love to, I feel like we could sit here for hours and talk about this stuff. So maybe we'll do a part two. But now I just want to go and take a nap and get my sleep. I'm very inspired after this. But if you are listening to this and anything that we're talking about resonated with you, the last thing that I want to put out there is that knowledge alone is not power. It becomes power when you apply it. And I know Catherine and I both love the application. I mean, we're talking about it today, right? Like the change, the implementation, because that is where the magic happens. So if anything resonated and you're like, I'm tired of being exhausted, I am tired of like self-abandoning in my relationship and being stressed out about sex, reach out to us. Right? Our contact information is here for you because we would love to help you apply that and transform the bedroom in whatever way that looks like. So, Catherine, thank you so much for being here. I had a great time.
Yeah, thank you for having me and for holding this space and sending this such an important message. So, thank you.
Of course. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.